Hey everyone, Rob here, and thought I would do a video because there's been a lot of activity around Keilir, and there's been a lot of earthquakes that have been going on. Now, they haven't been crazy, but there have been a few that have been over 3, so I thought at this point, it's time to do a video, give you all the information that's out there, and let's just talk about what's going on and what could happen in the future, as well as we got some other stuff in Iceland that I want to cover. So this is going to be quite a lot of information in this video. I wanted to go through it all, but let's start with the earthquakes that began September 27th, southwest of Keilir. So what you're looking at here is a map of a lava flow model showing the possible lava flow in the event of an eruption south of Keilir. So the earthquakes that have been happening have been intense enough that people are really starting to look and say, hey, could this possibly be a new eruption site? Now, they're not sure if it's sort of a continuation of the existing eruption because the lava tunnel that has formed, they are saying that, it is kind of leading up to this area. So there is a possibility that it's connected. But the quakes began on the 27th of September, and they're located at the northern end of the magma tunnel, as I said, that formed earlier with the eruption that's going on and still going on, even though we're not seeing lava, but the eruption at Fagradalsfjall. Now, the other day, there was around 2,000 earthquakes that have been detected, and 6 of them were over 3 in magnitude. Now, no eruption is underway at all. The seismic activity that's going on in these earthquakes is similar to what we saw when we were looking at all of the earthquakes leading up to the eruption in Fagradalsfjall. In fact, if we jump over to my channel, if you remember, if you've been watching for months and months, I remember posting about these earthquakes going on in Reykjavik, feeling them here. They were leading up to the Fagradalsfjall, and lo and behold, after all the earthquakes, there was the eruption. So perhaps that's something that's going to happen again. Not 100% sure, and more data is being collected. So they're very, very closely monitoring this. Now, I haven't felt any earthquakes myself, but there have been some people that I know in Reykjavik that have felt them. Again, going back to this image here, the lava flow model here is showing that the lava flow basically assumes an eruption of a 1.5 kilometer long fissure that lies north to south and is in the area where the earthquake originated. So you can see the cluster of them right around here. And if we're looking at the possible effects of the eruption in these areas, and there's 10 times more lava flow is expected than has been measured on average in the eruption at Fagradalsfjall. And so the model shows where the lava tongue would reach after a certain number of days. So we're looking at 1 to up to 14 days. So this lighter color is, of course, later on. Now, the good news is we can jump over to a quick map and show you. So this is the area. This is a satellite image from Google Maps. If we zoom out, we can see Fagradalsfjall volcano. So the current eruption is here where this picture is. And just going up a little bit is where the new earthquake swarm is happening and where this eruption may take place. Zooming out, we're still quite a ways away from any people or any real concerns at this point, especially looking at the lava flow model that they did, showing that the lava would continue to flow towards the inland rather than going towards the road. Now, the people in this city of Vogar, they are once again, as they did last time, preparing for some sort of an evacuation plan. So they do have plans underway, and they're reviewing those procedures just to make sure that they're ready to go. I would say it would be unfortunate as the winter is coming that they would have to evacuate in the cold rather than in the summer, but it is what it is. You can't control Mother Nature. So they are saying, back to this with Keilir, little activity has been visible from the main crater at Fagradalsfjall since September 18th. And they're saying that the eruption is not over, but it's not unusual for the eruption to kind of stop and take a break for a while, although recently it has been longer and longer breaks. Now, they're saying that a change in the eruption's behavior in conjunction with the increased seismic activity near Keilir here could mean that the magma is now trying to look for a new exit. But, the source of the seismic activity at Keilir is in an area connected to the magma tunnel that formed this spring with the eruption that's ongoing. So they're going to continue to follow these developments closely. And scientists, of course, are prepared and the response teams are prepared if magma does reach the surface at this area. Again, I do want to point out that because it is in a more remote area, it's a bit safer, but this particular mountain is a very popular hiking route. So they are just saying it's recommended that you don't go there. Consider the earthquakes that are going on, and advised not to climb that mountain for the time being while we figure out what's going on. So a lot of stuff going on with that. So if we're moving on, taking a look at some of the raw data on these earthquakes, and I know a lot of you love that, is we can see here from today, so it's October 2nd, the biggest earthquake in this sort of range of earthquakes. Now there was one that was felt this afternoon. I didn't feel it here in the city, but a lot of people did. And the earthquake was a magnitude of 3.9. So it is getting up higher and higher as the time goes on. I do expect that I will begin to feel earthquakes once again, like we did right before the Fagradalsfjall eruption. So 3.9 is pretty high. We're getting close to the above 4 that we felt that were shaking all the buildings here right before the eruption occurred. So perhaps this is the lead up to that. One thing that they do want to note here, though, is that most of the earthquakes have been detected at a depth of 5 to 6 kilometers. So they're not as close to the surface as they would be if the eruption was imminent, but it's still something that they're paying attention to, and they do expect that there will be more. Looking at the actual earthquake data, we can see here, this is from the meteorological office here in Iceland, we can see here in the peninsula area, we've got these stars coming back in, and that's anything that's a magnitude of over 3. Most of the earthquakes are going on right now in this area. So taking a look at the table, this is the last 48 hours, and let that load up. We can see here that there are quite a few earthquakes going on, and we go to 3 and larger. We can see here on Saturday we have 3.1. There was a 4.2, so I'm actually surprised at that. And then we got a bunch of 3s going on over the last couple days. So there are more and more coming up. So there you have it. I mean, this 3.1 that happened, actually that looks about a half an hour ago or so, and I didn't feel it. But again, I'm in the city of Reykjavik, and sometimes we don't feel these ones. But you can see here, again, pay attention to the depth of 5.6 kilometers, 5.7, 5 to 6 kilometers deep, and that's kind of the good news, showing that there's not an eruption that's going to happen in the next 24 hours kind of thing. I believe what happens is the earthquakes get closer and closer to the surface, and then they know to be prepared. But the one thing I will say, even with all of this information, is the Fagradalsfjall eruption that did occur, we had a geologist go on TV 1 hour before the eruption started, and he said there is no eruption that's going to happen, and then an hour later it erupted. So it just goes to show you that it's a best guess. Don't really know what's going to happen. So again, if you are in Iceland, do not go near that mountain for the time being. Now I do want to move over to one other important thing that's been going on, and this is Askja, and it's, for those of you that don't know, kind of in the middle of nowhere. So Reykjavik's way over here in this bottom left-hand corner over here, and that's where all the seismic activity is going on. And then up in the middle of the highlands is this volcanic activity that's been going on. Well, potential. And they're saying that the land is continuing to rise over here, and scientists are closely monitoring crustal movements near this area. But the land has been rising for quite a while, and it's typical that this land and the water levels and everything will rise up before some sort of an eruption. And so at a meeting of the Scientific Council, the latest measurements reviewed, which indicate that land continues to rise on the western edge of lake, and that's this lake here, Öxarvatn, at a fairly even speed. And that's why we have it here. Now, the good news is this is a hard place to get to, so there's not a lot of people that should be in this area, and it would be very contained. So the seismic activity in recent weeks in this area is higher than generally measured in the area, which is why this is even coming up. and the earthquakes are in known areas and of a similar magnitude as usual, but the frequency of the earthquakes here has increased and remained consistent since the beginning of August. So the meteorological office is working to increase monitoring in this area. Again, it's pretty remote, and they're installing new measuring equipment and all of that, but conditions are very difficult to get there because of the weather and the snow that's coming and storms and everything that's been going on very recently. But an additional GPS meter has already been installed there, so that's really good. And the Science Council is going to meet again in the next week or two and talk about the activity at Askja, and will then set up possible scenarios for the development of maybe a volcano or an eruption that occurs there. So this may be kind of the time of eruptions in Iceland. You know, we have one going on right now. We got seismic activity in Snæfellsnes Peninsula, which is this area over here. We got this activity over here. We got Katla going on over down here. Who knows what's going to happen, but currently down here by the airport, I would call it the tourist eruptions. We got one that's kind of going to sleep, taking breaks, and we have possibly the one at Keilir that's about to open up and wake up. So I know this video was pretty long. There's a lot of information in here, and thank you for sticking through it and watching all of it. But I did want to get all of the stuff on Keilir out to you, get you up to speed on what's going on, because it's again one of those things where it's going to develop every day, and I look forward to keeping you all updated with what's going on. So until possibly tomorrow, who knows what's going to happen. Thank you so much for watching, and leave me some notes in the comments on what you think. Is this going to be something? Is it going to be nothing? Fizzle out? Is it just earthquakes as usual? Or is this possibly the magma looking for a new place to erupt and lava coming out of the surface? So until next time, thank you so much.